We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder in the second degree as charged in the information.
A Florida woman who left her boyfriend zipped up inside a suitcase where he suffocated to death sits stoic as she receives her guilty verdict.
I zipped him up. We thought it was funny, and we're joking about how he was small enough to fit inside of the suitcase.
Sarah Boone's case first unfolded in 2020 when she was first charged with the February 2020 death of her boyfriend of nearly 4 years, George Torres Jr. He was found dead in the couple's apartment after Boone said she zipped him inside a suitcase during a drunken game of hide and seek. While Boone thought the game was funny at first,
for everything you've done to me.
So,
you.
that so-called game had deadly consequences, which resulted in Boone being charged with second-degree murder. Boone's road to trial took years after nearly 10 of her attorneys resigned from her case, many citing how difficult Boone was to work with.
Judge, the letters that have been coming to your honor, the derogatory berating of my services in this case, I can't effectively represent her. She doesn't trust me. She calls me a dud, I think, a buffoon, on and on and on and on. And no one should have to endure that type of derogatory comments and expect to effectively represent someone, especially in a murder case.
And months before her trial was set to begin, Boone infamously put out a handwritten 6-page help wanted letter, hoping she would generate attention to any attorney looking to represent her in trial. Ultimately, for trial, it would be attorney James Owens who was up for the task of representing Boone. And Boone opted for the case to continue to go to trial after rejecting a plea deal that would have sent her to prison for 15 years. During opening statements, the prosecution used Sarah Boone's own words against her, as they painted to the jury her seemingly malicious intent for leaving George in the suitcase.
From a video that began at 11:12 p.m., 45 seconds, on February 23rd, 2020, in Orange County, Florida, is a suitcase on the ground, face down, with the zippers facing the floor. You will hear, "Sarah," the defendant will say, "for everything you've done to me." Sarah, "for everything you've done to me." Sarah, you. And then the defendant laughs. Sarah, you. And the defendant laughs. Sarah, stupid. Sarah, that's my name. Don't wear it out. Sarah, I can't breathe, baby, seriously. Yeah, that's what you do when you choke me. Sarah, Sarah, Sarah. The defendant laughs again. Sarah, I can't breathe, babe. She laughs again. That's on you. Sarah, I can't breathe. She laughs again. Unintelligible words. And I would submit the evidence is going to show, because of the intoxication from alcohol, is the next thing she says. Sarah, 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 I can't breathe, baby. That's what I feel like when you cheat on me.
But Boone's attorney claims she acted in self-defense after allegedly suffering from physical abuse by George.
Sarah Boone and George Torres were down and out, as you can be. Their life centered around alcohol. Both of them suffered from, used to be called alcoholism, now it's called alcohol abuse syndrome. And so day to day, they struggle with the use of alcohol. You can imagine that. It affected their jobs. It affected keeping employment. It affected even getting a job. As codependent as you can be towards each other. And you're going to learn with all that was domestic violence. And that George Torres physically abused Sarah Boone. And she suffered from the effects, the psychological effects that one suffers from repeat violence from an intimate partner.
First up on the stand was Juan Torres, George's younger brother, who admitted on the stand he didn't get along very well with Sarah Boone. He testified he heard Boone yelling in the background while he was on the phone with his brother often.
What was she yelling about?
Something about choking or how he choked her. I really don't. That was it.
About how long was this conversation that you had?
Maybe 10 minutes, I think it was.
How did the conversation end?
Because she was yelling in the background, so that was it. We just hung out.
Did she sound upset?
She sounded upset.
Did you talk to your brother after that conversation?
No, that was the last conversation I had.
But when the defense cross-examined the younger sibling, Torres said Boone's statements didn't surprise him.
And she was yelling about, he's choking me. Or tell him about choking me.
Yes.
Okay. During that conversation, and you heard her say that, did you ask your brother, what is she talking about?
No, I did not.
Did that statement at that time, did that statement surprise you?
Not really.
Sarah Boone's former neighbor, Vincent Battaglia, then gave jurors insight into what he noticed from the couple, noting the walls at their apartment complex were very thin. But he mentioned a certain conversation he had with Boone prior to George's death.
And with those walls being so thin, would you ever have occasion to hear arguing and yelling coming from Sarah Boone and George Torres's apartment?
Yeah.
How often would you hear this?
Almost daily.
Did Sarah Boone ever approach you about the things that you heard coming from their apartment?
Yes.
And where were you when she approached you?
I was smoking a cigarette on my back patio.
And approximately what time
It was
was this?
pretty late. I can't remember the exact time, but it was definitely anywhere between like midnight to 2 a.m., like right around there.
And do you remember how much before the date when the police called that this occurred?
A few months, probably 4 to 5 months before that.
So 4 or 5 months before February of
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
And when she approached you on this late evening / early morning on that day, what did she tell you?
Pretty much just kind of like, if I do hear anything, like through the walls or whatever, as out back, just kind of keep my mouth shut, like don't really speak about it or anything like that or say anything to anyone. And I just was like, okay.
Did she make any motions with her hands?
Yeah, like just kind of like, finger over the lips, like kind of shh, like keep it hush, like that kind of thing.
Do you recall the evening of February 23rd, 2020?
I do, yeah.
And what about that evening sticks out to you?
That sticks out to me from that night was literally just there was a very, very loud noise that I heard that was loud and powerful enough to shake my bedroom wall. And I remember that because I was sitting on my bed on FaceTime with my girlfriend at the time, and I literally felt the wall shake and it stopped me mid-conversation. And she even asked me through the computer, like, what was that? And I was like, I have no idea.
Did you hear any yelling coming from their apartment on that night?
Before that, yeah, like it was just arguing kind of stuff.
What was the last thing you heard?
The last thing I heard was like the loud noise and just a little bit of shuffling, and that was kind of it. It just kind of went silent after that.
Sarah Boone's ex-husband, Brian, who she shares a teenage son with, would also provide key testimony. Brian Boone said Sarah called him on the night George suffocated in the suitcase.
And when you actually got in touch with her, what did she tell you on the phone?
That George was dead, and if I would come over.
Did she say what happened to him?
I don't remember if she told me then on the phone or when I got there, but she told me they had been playing hide and seek and that she fell asleep.
What did you advise her to do?
I told her she needed to call 911 and that I would come over as soon as I could.
And this is on your first phone call here at approximately 12:30
Yes.
on 2/24/2020.
Yes.
Did she call you again while you were en route to her residence?
She did. She called to find out if I was still going to be coming over.
And when you spoke with her while you were en route, what, if anything, did you advise her?
I told her she needed to call 911 and told her I was on my way, but she needed to get somebody over there.
Tell us what she told you when you arrived.
George was dead, and I don't remember if she told me now or before that they had been playing hide and seek and she fell asleep, but I at that time told her again she needed to get 911 called to get somebody over there.
Had she called 911 at this point?
No, she had not.
So you've advised her now 3 times to call 911.
Yes.
Brian Boone testified he finally saw Sarah call 911 and stayed at the scene until emergency crews arrived. The Orange County jurors got a chance to listen to the 911 call after he was off the stand, as Sarah can be heard telling the dispatcher George was dead and she didn't know what happened to him.
All right, great. Now tell me exactly what happened there.
My boyfriend and I were playing last night, and I tried to make a case and we were playing, and but kind of hide seek kind of thing. So I fell asleep, and I woke up, and he was dead in the suitcase. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
Right. Okay. What's your apartment number?
3.
Apartment 3.
Yes, like he had like blood coming out of his mouth, and I don't know, like he had like an aneurysm on his what nothing.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. Listen, we're getting out of 13. All right. Okay. Okay.
Now?
Okay. 40. Yeah. Listen, we're on our way there. Yeah. 407-716-8684. Okay. He hanging from somewhere or what, man?
No, I pulled him out of the suitcase. I tried giving him CPR.
Okay. So he was in a suitcase?
Yes, and I fell asleep.
Okay. How old is he working there? 42-year-old man. All right. Okay. We're setting up. The sheriff's officer out there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Listen to me. Okay. That you need to confirm this one. All right. I just need to confirm this. Is he awake at all? Is he conscious at all?
No. He's purple.
Is he breathing?
No.
But when it came time for the jury to see Sarah Boone on body camera video as officers responded to her in George's apartment, she appeared frantic, but didn't mention it was her ex-husband who repeatedly told her to call 911.
What's going on? I just got here to fill me in. No problem. Like, put a puzzle together. We can do some artwork together. You are putting a puzzle together? Yes, we have a puzzle that we started in there. Okay. We've been doing art, trying to take stuff off the wall to make new art put up there, like having a good time with one another. But we had a bottle of wine last night. Okay. So then it's like, we decided to play hide and seek, right? Okay. So he gets in the suitcase. Okay. Who is this guy? That's my ex-husband. My former husband. He lives here with you guys? No. I called him over here. Okay. I didn't know what to do. Okay. I didn't know what to do. Okay. So then he came over here. Here, let's talk inside here, okay? I called you guys. I tried getting your brother. The problem is I fell asleep. When did you do CPR? This morning. When I found it. Before you called? Yes. 1 o'clock right now. I tried. I was awake, but I actually got out of the bed at like 12:30ish, whatever. So I came downstairs, and I was like, oh, he's in the suitcase still. That's when I found him, and I took him out, and I tried doing CPR, and then I called him, and then I called you guys. Did he be here before the fire department got here? Who? Your husband? Or your ex-husband? Okay. Where'd you live at? Right down the street. Okay. So you were playing, and who did come up there? I did, but then I fell asleep. Okay. You're okay. I wasn't here. I'm just trying to figure out what happened. I fell asleep. I don't know if he's suffocated or like had an aneurysm or a heart attack or what. What kind of medical conditions did he have? None that I know of. Nothing that you know of. None that I know of. No. All we had was a bottle of wine. Literally, just a bottle of wine. Okay. Doing puzzles, artwork. Then we decided to play hide and seek. That's all that happened. Okay. So I really never had an attack or what in there. Like, I don't know what happened. So, you had a second to kind of collect yourself. Tell it to me again. You guys were playing last night, drinking a bottle of wine. Putting puzzles together, doing artwork. Puzzles, artwork. Okay. Had a bottle of wine, and they decided to play hide and seek. So, what time was that? Do you remember? I mean, I know that I was in bed probably by, like, what, 12:30? Okay. Well, I went upstairs at least, and I fell asleep. Okay. Forgetting that he was in the suitcase. You guys were playing the hide and go. Yes. And at some point you put him in the suitcase? No, he got in the suitcase. So he thought it would be funny to be put in the suitcase. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to joke with you and I'll zip you up and make him, squirm a little bit, whatever it is. But then I fell asleep. I fell asleep. Where was the suitcase? Right where it is. Right down there? Yes. You zipped him in there? Yes. Thought it would be funny a little bit? It was. We both were laughing about it. Okay. And then I fell asleep. Where did you fall asleep at? Upstairs. In your bedroom? Yes. Okay. Totally forgetting that he was in the suitcase still. Okay. And then you came back downstairs? This morning, or this afternoon, yes, when I got up. What time? 12:30ish. I was awake, but I totally forgot that he was in the suitcase. He can tell you there's a lot of things that I/we think go jobs. Yeah, he did tell me. Right, all that good stuff. So I just totally forgot. So you began to do CPR on him? Yes. Yes. About what time this morning did you start doing that CPR? No, it was the afternoon. Because I was awake. But then I finally decided to come downstairs at like 12:30ish, whatever it is. And I was like, I thought he was in the suitcase. And he wasn't moving. Nothing was happening. So I unzipped him, took him out and started doing CPR on him. He was on his way up here. I called you when he got here.
On day 2 of trial, jurors saw the chilling video taken by Boone of George zipped up inside the suitcase, as he can be heard struggling to breathe.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
Sarah. I can't breathe, babe. Seriously.
Investigators noted scratches on George's body when he was recovered from the suitcase. But during Boone's police interview, she says she didn't know how they got there.
So he's got scratch marks to his back. I know that's wrong. Okay. And it's called a contusion. Do you know what a contusion is? So like basically you're getting hit and then you get a mark from it. You'll get bruising. Like someone hit you or something like that. It's called a contusion. So he had some injuries to his left shoulder. He had a cut near his lip. We could see his mouth was a little. I haven't laid a hand on him. Okay.
Also too, he fell off my son's bike.
Okay.
So I don't know. And he's notorious for running into the wall or the haltering.
Okay.
So
Okay. What about the scratches? Because there's also sex.
Yes.
Okay. Because there's also like a scratch on like the back of his neck, Like kind of like going, but it's like going straight across.
I have no idea what that's from.
And they're all recent, like they occurred recently. It wasn't something that occurred post or that occurred a week ago, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. They definitely occurred, the night leading up to when he was.
In all honesty, we have not gotten into it.
Okay.
That's why, the only thing I thought you guys were going to ask me about, which I was going to be honest with you anyway, are the scratch marks on his back.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, I have no idea what it is.
But she told investigators even in 2020, George had allegedly been violent with her in the past.
I don't think you all understand. He comes at me all the time. He comes at me. So it's either I flee or try to go upstairs and go to sleep. That's usually what it is. I don't know if you talked to Brian about any of that, but most of the time when I flee, I go over there. So.
Right, but you're saying that you guys have been good, and when I asked you yesterday, the last incident that you could remember was the curtain rod incident, which you said was a month ago, so.
Give or take.
Right, so what do you mean by he comes after you?
He gets belligerently drunk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you all have looked through my phone yet and seen any of the pictures and the videos that I have taken.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I started documenting everything.
Okay.
So you all will see in my pictures, bloody fingers, split forehead, he split my nose. I've got this.
Right.
I don't know if Brian told you about it, where I had to have almost I had one really bad surgery, but then it got really, 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 really bad, where I had to go 4 or 5 more times afterwards and then tend to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then poking me in the back of the leg.
Right.
So it's.
And why are you still with him?
Everybody asks me that. When I tell you guys this, I really love him. I do. And I feel like I can help him. I feel like I could help him, which I did, because he came a really long way from where he was in Philadelphia to moving back to here and to dealing with everything else that he's been dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I've really helped him. I bailed him out of jail, 3 times. I've gone to every single hearing and every single arraignment, everything that I did for him. Gone to see all his public defenders, go to the state. I've gone to the state. I did everything for him because I'm trying to help him, because I had hope in him. And he was trying. He was really trying. And then he starts to think about things, and I think he gets overwhelmed, and then it's next thing you know, he's drinking. So it's oh man, I know where this is going to go, so I'm going to go upstairs and read a book. Or I'm going to go for a bike ride, or I'm going to do something else. Or I don't want to drink. I don't want to drink. The occasional wine, whatever, or if it's a weekend. That's when you have a good time. You don't have to wake up the next day. I have to wake up the next day and do things. I have to tend to Lucas. I have to take him to school. I have all this stuff to do. He doesn't know how to, maintain himself, where I can do 50 things at once and still know the 50 things more prior that I need to get done. He can't process like that. He didn't process like that, so he would literally, not literally, but have smoke coming out of his ears. So the next thing you know, he doesn't want to deal with it. I'm going to go get something to drink.
Later in the interview, Boone's own words would come back to haunt her. After police found the video, she took taunting George while he was struggling to take what would end up being his final breaths.
I don't know what you all want me to tell you, because this was not in any way, shape, or form handled vital intentional.
Okay. So you just
I didn't kill him.
You left him there to see him alive?
I didn't mean to leave him there. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
You got up and walked away. How is that not intentionally leaving him there?
Because I'm looking at the hole, knowing that it's there. He'll get out no problem. Because you don't.
If he doesn't,
But
then you don't go check on him. You say you're up for 30 minutes and he doesn't come up. You don't go down and check on him?
I'm in the bed.
You even moved, you admit to moving the suitcase, over, so.
Roll it.
You roll it over, it's not like.
I said one of them to be like that. Don't.
You didn't want him to be upside down, how do you even get upside down?
Right. You guys are killing me right now.
I just want you to hear me.
That's how he talks to me most of the time. I don't know how I don't know how you want me to say it.
I'm just trying to figure out what you would expect to happen to somebody when you leave them in a suitcase.
I didn't mean to leave him in there.
But Sarah Boone would have an answer to everything that happened, because in typical Sarah Boone fashion, she decided to take the stand in her own defense.
With that, the state has rested. The defense is going to put on a case. Defense, Mr. Owens, you can call your first witness.
The defense would call Sarah Boone.
The defense first asked Boone about her childhood. She was born in Atlanta before moving to Florida, but she testified she experienced enormous loss when she was younger.
I know you lost your mother and father in your teens and in your 20s. Is that true?
I lost my grandfather when I was a sophomore in high school, and I lost my father when I was a senior. And then my mother passed away a few years after that, and then my grandmother passed away after my mother died.
And after experiencing the loss of several family members, she then met her now ex-husband, Brian Boone.
Can you tell the jury when you said you and Brian Boone dated for a while? Do you remember when y'all married?
I do.
Could you tell the jury when y'all were married?
The year?
Yeah. You remember the date?
It happened to be, yes, that after my mother passed away, that he had waited to ask me to marry him because he knew it would be,
Sustained. Just answer the question if you can, Ms. Boone. Are you a little bit nervous?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, just tell the jury if you remember the date that you and Brian Boone married.
August 21st, 2004.
Okay. And had y'all lived with each other for a short time before that?
Short time.
Yes. Okay, after you married, how long was it before y'all had any children?
Gosh, 6 years?
Okay. And y'all have one son.
Yes.
What's his name?
Lucas.
The Boones would ultimately divorce. However, they still shared custody of their son. Later, Sarah Boone would find another man she shared a connection with, George Torres Jr.
I met George when I decided to buck up, I guess, and was tired of trying to patch things up with my ex-husband. And I decided to go one day for a walk across the street and go have a beer by myself and sit and people watch just to get out of my house and a change of scenery.
All right, now is this your apartment?
No, this is the marital home.
Okay. Where is that marital home?
Winter Park?
You're no longer living in that marital home?
No.
Who lives in the marital home?
No one. It has been sold.
Okay. So you met George Torres before you got the apartment?
Yes.
Okay. And you met him at a bar across the street from the marital home?
Yes, we had a mutual friend there.
Were you introduced?
Yes.
All right. How did you and George get along when y'all first met?
Very well. It was strange how quickly we hit things off and had so much in common, and I never thought that he would be interested in someone like me, and I just couldn't believe that he was actually interested in me and said a lot of nice things, and 1 hour ended up being 4 hours from when we had first met, and then we would always have something to talk about.
Why couldn't you believe that he would be interested in you?
He was very handsome. He was very funny. He was smart, and I would show up in workout clothes and disheveled hair, and I guess I kind of felt broken from being in the process of the divorce that he knew about. But then one of the things that we could relate also was the fact that he was here in Florida because he had just been divorced from his second wife. So that was another topic that he and I could compare notes on.
George and Sarah Boone eventually moved in together to the very apartment where he would take his final breaths. When Boone's attorneys questioned her about the day of the murder, she said they initially decided to clean the apartment, but then chose to go shopping for wine later on.
Yes.
All right, tell the jury what happened when y'all got up.
He was already downstairs, and I went downstairs, and he wanted to start the day off by drinking because it was a day off from his job. And I talked him into cleaning and tidying up the house for a sense of accomplishment. So that is what we did for however long that it took. So we did tidy up the house and got everything in order, and it was kind of a reward, I guess, to be able to sit and enjoy ourselves and sit on the back porch.
All right, what do you mean by cleaning up the house? What did y'all do?
We swept and mopped. We folded some of the laundry. I know that we did the dishes, emptied the dishwasher, just general run-of-the-mill tidying up.
And did you have your son coming the next day?
Yes, that was one of the reasons why we were able to do that.
What was the arrangement you had in terms of the next day would have been your day to pick up your son from school?
Yes.
What time would you pick Lucas up from school the next day?
I believe his school ended at 3 o'clock.
Okay. So you would have been responsible to pick him up, and he would be spending the night with you that night?
Yes.
So you wanted to have the house nice and clean?
Yes.
How many bedrooms are in the home?
2.
And you and George had one bedroom?
Yes.
And who had the other?
Lucas.
All right. Is that exclusively his bedroom?
Yes.
All right. So how long would it have taken y'all that morning to clean?
I don't really remember what time we woke up, but maybe a good 2, maybe 3 hours.
Okay. And would it be fair to say that you and George both smoked cigarettes?
Yes.
And would it be fair to say that you and George both drink alcohol?
Yes.
All right. So at some point, y'all finished your chores,
Yes.
right? And then y'all were going to enjoy the day.
Yes.
All right. What was the plan?
It was just kind of, we've got the day to ourselves. Let's just kind of relax and go with the flow.
Did y'all make a decision that y'all were going to start drinking?
Yes, we had a half of a bottle that was already in the refrigerator, and I did not want to go out afterwards. I, again, had Lucas coming the next day, so we went over to Publix to purchase another bottle of wine so we could not have to go out later on that evening.
She says the two that night were drinking and doing art projects together. Then at some point she went upstairs, and when she returned, George was in the suitcase.
Whose suitcase was it?
This is George's suitcase.
All right. And did he use it for traveling back and forth to Philly?
Yes, I had recently taken him on a trip to go see his children in Pennsylvania, who he hasn't seen in years, and we took that with us. And because of how dilapidated it was, how broken it was, in the end, after that trip, we decided that we would donate it.
All right. And I understand y'all kept the suitcase upstairs.
Yes,
How long did y'all keep it upstairs?
since we had moved in.
All right. Is there a closet up there you kept it in?
Yes, it was in the master closet, the master bedroom closet, all the way in the back because of the size of it, and there was nowhere to put it, so it's all the way in the back.
So when did y'all decide to move it down from upstairs to downstairs? Was it that day or sometime earlier?
No, it was maybe a week or so prior.
Okay. You got down there, you're looking for him, you see him settling into the suitcase.
Yes.
What did you do?
In my head, I said, oh man, we're obviously not going to be going to sleep anytime soon. And I walked over, and he was trying to get himself flat, so I couldn't tell that he was in there. And then
Now, let me stop you there. The suitcase, is it the suitcase over here in the
yes,
box? You've seen it, you saw it.
yes,
It's a pretty big suitcase.
yes.
How big is George?
George was my height. And
How tall are you?
I'm 5'3".
Okay. And how much did George weigh?
I thought it was 100 pounds.
Okay. And how much did you weigh?
I was 98 pounds.
All right. Do you agree you put on some weight?
Since I've been incarcerated, yes.
Well, at the time, though, y'all were pretty skinny.
Yes.
So from the pictures, it looks like y'all were both pretty thin.
Yes.
All right. So because of his thinness, is that how? And he's a small man.
Yes.
Okay. So he was able to get in the suitcase on his own.
Yes.
Did he willingly get in the suitcase?
He was already in there.
Okay. When you got to him, did he see you?
Yes.
All right. Tell us what happened.
I mean, I zipped him up. We thought it was funny, and we're joking about how he was, I guess, small enough to fit inside of the suitcase.
All right. So what happened then?
From there, it was just, we were laughing about it, and it was just strange that he was small enough to fit in there, and then I kind of moved it around a little bit with him in the suitcase still. It was still funny that he was still in the suitcase. Just, I think he and I were just kind of, couldn't believe that he could fit in the suitcase.
Did you eventually close the top?
Yes, well, the top was already closed. As he was settling himself in there, that's how I knew he was in there, was because the top was kind of flopping a little bit.
Okay. So he had got in there to hide, and he pulled the top.
Yes.
On top of it. But you could tell he was in there.
Yes.
You saw him right away.
Yes.
All right. So at some point, did you zip him up?
Yes.
Did you? And what was he saying or doing when you were zipping him up?
We just thought it was funny.
Were you both laughing?
Yes.
And so you zipped him up. Were y'all still laughing once you zipped him up?
Yes.
Tell the jury what happened then.
From there, I moved the suitcase around a couple of times, just kind of on the wheels, and moved it around. And at that point, it was funny. We were joking and laughing about it.
All right, now eventually, did you go sit down on the couch and get your phone?
Yes.
Did I miss something?
Well, the suitcase had, from me moving it around, was flopped over. So while it was like that, I thought at that point I had a moment to, I guess, take the time to talk to him while I guess he was not able to get out for a moment.
So you flipped it. You got it on the top, right?
Yeah.
It gets in, but at some point you flip it over so the zipper is on the bottom.
Well, it was just kind of how I was moving it around that it ended up kind of flopping, so.
It was upside down.
Yes.
So after you did that, what did you do?
That's when I went over and decided to videotape to just see the gist in it, for him to understand that right now I feel safe, and right now I have the ability to actually speak to you in a manner that normally I would not have the ability to.
Boone admitted she said things to George that night that she shouldn't have said, but testified she didn't remember even filming him in the suitcase that night. However, she claims she remembers George threatening her while he was zipped up inside the suitcase.
So between the 2-minute video and the 22-second video is an 11-minute period. Would you tell the jury what happened?
We continued to, I guess, speak to one another, and his tone changed, and I knew the tone, and we ended up, I guess, arguing back and forth with one another, and it was, the things that he was saying very much frightened me, and cursing at me and threatening me. And
did he want you to let him out of the suitcase?
I'm sure so.
Okay. Go ahead, tell the jury.
And it just got very heated very quickly, and he continued to push on the suitcase, and my fear was that he was going to break out of the suitcase, knowing that it was a broken suitcase. And his hand started to come through, his hand started to come through this way. And so I shook the suitcase. Trying to get his hand to go back in, shaking it, and telling him that, please stop doing this. Please stop doing this to me. Please stop doing this to me.
So his hand actually got out of the suitcase?
Yes.
And you went to the suitcase?
Yes.
And shook it?
Yes.
Did that force his hand to go back in?
No.
So you're shaking it. Were you shaking it to try to get the suitcase, his hand back in?
Yes.
How long did you shake it?
I don't know.
But his hand was still out.
Yes.
Was he trying to get out?
Forcefully, yes.
Was he angry at you?
Yes.
Were you in fear?
Always.
If he would have gotten out of the suitcase, what would he have done to you?
Like he used to tell me, he probably would have made me unrecognizable, or I would have lost my life.
After going to sleep and later waking up and realizing George was still in the suitcase, she testified she attempted to perform CPR on him, but it was too late.
I immediately unzipped the suitcase and I was screaming, George, 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 and I was shaking him, and I pulled him out and I stretched him out flat, and then I began instantly trying to do CPR and then was trying to look for a pulse or a breath or just anything, and was just screaming his name over and over and over again, and come on, George, and I continued CPR, and I continued CPR, and he was gurgling, and...
What color was he?
What color was he?
Yes.
He was purple.
At some point, did you call your ex-husband?
Yes, when he started to gurgle, and I knew that my ex-husband is notorious for bringing my son over in very inopportune times when George is possibly drunk or doing things not appropriate for my son to see. And I just didn't know what to do. It was just a quick knee-jerk reaction. Ryan was kind of my go-to person because of my family being deceased, and I don't have anyone else that I can call. And I just wanted to ensure that he would not bring my son over in the process of all of this at some point.
So you called him?
I called him.
Did you ask him what to do? Or did you just tell him to come over?
I just told him to come over.
Did you tell him that you felt like George was dead?
Yes, I did.
And how far? You said it's 5 minutes from house to house?
Yes.
Did you call him back?
Yes, because he was taking so long. It felt seconds were hours. Yes. I'm still doing CPR at the same time in the process of it. I'm doing CPR I don't know how many times.
Did he get there?
Yes.
Did you love George?
To this day.
Why did you love him?
George was very passionate. George was a very real person. George was nice to me on the good days. George complimented me. George and I were two bodies with one soul, he and I would always say. I don't believe that I've ever had a connection with anyone like I have with George.
Despite Sarah Boone's continuous love for George, she said he had a pattern of violence throughout their relationship.
Did George cause these injuries?
Yes.
All right. Were y'all both drinking at that time?
I don't remember on this instance.
Judge, I'd like to move this exhibit into evidence.
Okay. What was pre-marked as P will be received into evidence without objection as Defense Exhibit 2.
Ms. Boone, is that you?
Yes.
Are those injuries to your arm?
Yes.
Were they caused by George Torres?
Yes.
And during the same incident, is this you?
Yes.
Is that an injury or bruise to your ribcage area?
Yes.
And your arm?
Yes.
show you identification, defense identification Q. See if you recognize that photograph.
Yes.
Is that your thigh?
Yes.
Okay. You remember this incident?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what happened?
I wanted to take my dogs for a walk and get off of the back porch.
Were y'all drinking?
Yes. And he was upset that I would rather go walk my dogs than sit there and continue to drink. So he slapped my thighs possibly hard as he possibly could and said that you're not going anywhere. And it was a good smack on my thigh.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of the woe that you suffered as a result of George Torres slapping you on the thigh?
Yes.
She testified about another incident where George allegedly stabbed her.
This is a longer story, isn't it? Go ahead and tell me.
So George stabbed me in my leg. I almost bled to death.
All right, well, let's go back and explain what led up to that.
I thought it would be nice to cook a nice steak dinner. We don't have two nickels to rub together, so I thought it would be special to make a steak dinner and baked potato and go above the normal whatever's left over in the refrigerator. And so I spent a lot of time doing that, and George is drinking the entire time, and on the back porch.
You were drinking as well, were you not?
I was drinking. He was on the back porch while I was in the house and I was cooking. And it was one of those where maybe if I start making dinner now, it will be over at a particular time and we can go to bed at a reasonable time. And I even put it in the bedroom and had a movie set up for us to watch. So it would just kind of be dinner in bed. And then he came upstairs and saw that I had made the steak dinner, and I don't know how to describe how drunk he was, but it definitely was not George. And had him come lay on the bed, sit on the bed, and, you know, put the, I got the dogs out, and I presented him with the steak dinner, and sat down and was getting ready to start playing the movie. And he starts being very rude and cursing the steak and finding fault with it. And then, you know, I'm having to encourage him to eat. You know, if you want me to cut it up for you, I will cut it up for you. Did you want some more sour cream for your potato? What can I do to make you happier? And then he started to pull on me and kept saying that, excuse me, that I just want to you on the steak and you on the potatoes. And I took offense to that, and I kept trying to encourage him to eat. I started to eat.
Is this just him really drunk and saying nonsense?
I don't know why he was so angry that day. I don't know if it's because I got steak. I don't know. Most of the time I don't know the reason why. I couldn't take it anymore. Obviously I was not going to be able to eat, so I started to crawl off of the bed to leave, just the bedroom. And he told me again that I'm not going anywhere, and he stabbed me in my leg, and it crunched. You could hear a noise that it made, and blood just started to come out of my leg just like a fountain. So I got off of the bed. He's starting to freak out and grabbed me a towel. I got a wet towel, and I'm sitting here holding the towel, and it's increasingly becoming even more and more saturated by the minute. It's just minutes. So I'm going through towels and towels, and I said, George, I think I need to go to the hospital. This is not stopping to bleed. This is serious. And he got on his knees and begged me, please don't call the police. Please don't call the police. Please don't call the police. And inevitably, he went and got my car keys and put them around his neck again, and my cell phone. So I was not able to call anyone, and I wasn't able to leave in my car. So I figured I would just go downstairs, and I'm just going to go downstairs. And I had propped my foot up on the glass table that we had, and blood is just everywhere. Blood is everywhere. I can't keep up with the amount of blood, and I'm starting to feel very weak and really weird. And he comes downstairs, and he's still begging me, please don't call 911, please don't call 911. I kept telling him, there's something, this is serious, this is something. Because he knew that he would probably get arrested or something bad would happen to him. So I couldn't take him anymore. He was just all over me, and just, I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding very badly, and he's having me try to console him. And I kept telling him, please, I need to call 911, please. And I said, okay, just give me a moment. And I crawled upstairs to my son's bathroom, which is the furthest bathroom away from everything. And I remember holding onto the sink. And I looked into the mirror, and my lips were blue. And I knew I needed help. I needed help.
She also testified about several other instances of physical abuse that allegedly happened when George was drinking. When it came time for the state to cross-examine her, prosecutors questioned Boone about her level of drinking on the night George died.
All right, and you say you were about 100 pounds at the time? And we all know Mr. Torres was 103 pounds at the time of his death, correct?
That's what they say.
All right, so that's 3 liters of wine between 200 pounds split between 2 people over the course of a day, correct?
Yes.
And you testified today that you were intoxicated at the time that this occurred, the videos between 11 and 11:30 at night, correct?
Yes, at some level, yes.
Now, what does that mean to you? Previously, have you indicated that that means the room is spinning? Do you ever recall saying that?
I do.
So what was your level of intoxication at this point in time when the first video was filmed at 11:12 p.m.?
Do you mean from lack of sleep or alcohol?
From the alcohol.
What was my level?
What were you feeling? Did you have trouble with your balance?
I was more tired than anything.
Did you have trouble with your balance?
I don't believe so.
So you were able to flip a suitcase over with a 100-pound man in it, right?
I mean, yes, it happened.
Okay. How about your speech? Do you feel like your speech was slurred?
Clearly.
How about your inhibitions? Do you feel like you were doing things that you wouldn't do when you were sober?
I wasn't thinking about that.
Well, on reflection, do you feel like this is something you would have done when you were sober?
I didn't know me and George.
I'm just asking you, looking back on this, when he's in the suitcase and you're telling him how you feel, and then you wait 11 minutes and you film another 22 seconds, and then you go upstairs, upon reflection, is that something you would have done and left him in there had you not been drinking?
I don't know. I can't say.
Okay.
If I was scared, then it would be something.
All right. Now, today you testified about the time frame between the 2 videos, correct?
Yes.
So you came down from the shower where you were hiding, correct?
Yes.
And as you're coming down the stairs, before you even get to the bottom of the stairs, you can kind of see over your shoulder or towards your right that he's trying to hide in the suitcase, correct?
Yes.
And the lid is down, but it's not closed, and you can tell he's hiding in there. It's not a great hiding spot just yet, right?
Correct.
And so you come over to him, and you're laughing, right?
Yes.
And you move the suitcase around some before zipping it shut, right?
No.
No? You immediately zip it shut?
Yes.
Okay. And you're both still laughing about it, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then it's during this course of time, how quickly is it after you zip it shut that you begin filming the first video?
I don't know without watching it. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, the video's not going to catch you zipping him up because you're like 10 feet away, right? How quickly after you zip him up is it before the video starts, is my question.
I don't know.
Okay. And then during that 9 minutes and 14 seconds is when he begins to get angry, correct?
What, 9 minutes?
Between the two videos, there's 9 minutes and 14 seconds between the end of 1061 and the beginning of 1062 and 1063. So you got the 2 minute, 3 second video that starts at 11:12:45, correct?
I guess.
Permission to use state 17?
You may.
Your testimony was that after that first video was captured by your phone and you, Mr. Torres began getting angry and trying to push his way out, correct?
Say it one more time, please.
Between these two movies, of which there's about 9 minutes and 14 seconds, Mr. Torres begins to get angry and try and push his way out and get out of the suitcase, correct?
He had been angry on and off throughout the entire day.
Okay. You didn't tell us that earlier. You said it was a wonderful, fun day all day, correct?
That's because I lived.
Okay. But you did not tell us earlier today that he had been angry throughout the day.
When would I say that?
You described your entire day of doing puzzles and arts and crafts and outside by the dartboard, and you said it was a wonderful day and everything was fun until he was in the suitcase. Did you not testify to that earlier today?
I did.
Okay. My specific question between these two movies is, this is when he begins to get angry and trying to push his way out and to get out of the suitcase, correct?
Angry again, yes.
And he was expressing his anger in what manner? How did he say this?
At which point throughout the day?
Ma'am, you know very well that I'm talking about between these movies. Please answer my question. Between these two movies, how did he express his anger with you?
Told me that I was going to die.
Okay. Now this is happening after he's already told you several times he cannot breathe in the suitcase, correct?
Correct.
And he's been in there for whatever brief amount of time it took you to zip him up, and the laughter stops, and then you go over to begin to film, correct?
Yes.
And you're filming. Your purpose of filming is to kind of teach him a lesson. This is your chance to say something to him when he can't say anything back to you, correct?
No.
Then correct me.
There was no lesson to be learned. It was just I wanted him to try to understand how I felt so maybe he could progress in being a better person the next day.
So you wanted him to understand how you felt in the past, and that's not teaching a lesson?
I just wanted him to understand.
Prosecutors even pulled out the suitcase to determine how much of the suitcase Boone claims she left unzipped.
When you say that it was zipped shut, show us.
Are you talking about how I zipped it, or?
When you're done zipping it shut and he's inside of it, where are the zipper components?
Just tell me where it's at.
I mean, it was the corner. I mean, the corner was kind of open. I mean, it's not. Yes, this one was already pretty much, yes. From what I can remember. That's how he was coming with his hand out. It was like this from the corner part.
Okay. Thank you. You can return to your seat. Did you ever change the position of those zippers once you put it in that position?
I did not.
Did you do anything to help him escape from the predicament that you zipped him up in?
No.
No other questions?
During closing arguments, the state focused on how George died, using a key piece of evidence, the suitcase itself.
This is the box where George Torres was killed. It's a small box, 28 by 20 by 8 7/8 inches. George Torres was zipped up in this box. George Torres took his last panicked breaths in this box. The medical examiner explained to us that with each breath George Torres took in, there was less oxygen in this box.
Meanwhile, the defense focused on the seemingly tumultuous relationship between Boone and George Torres.
George Torres had a history of violence against Sarah, and as a result, Sarah Boone's actions were the result of fear conditioned by abuse she endured over time. The cumulative effects of long-term abuse, as we saw her behavior on the 2-minute Suitcase video, is a trauma response. Sarah Boone acted out of a sense of preservation. While tragic, it was not driven by malice, but a mind ravaged by abuse. And I'm going to ask you to try to understand. Try to understand. Sarah Boone being emotionally and psychologically broken, whose actions may have been misguided attempts at survival but not murder. Imminent danger, her response reacted to that belief. It's somebody suffering from the long-term psychological effects of domestic violence.
But after all was said and done, after the week-long trial, for the Orange County jury, they came back with a verdict seemingly quick, in less than 2 hours.
Madam Clerk, if you could please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the 9th Judicial Circuit and in Orange County, Florida, case number 2020 CF 2603, the state of Florida versus Sarah Boone. Verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder in the second degree as charged in the information. So say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 25th day of October 2024. The form has been signed by the foreperson.
Sarah Boone gave little to no reaction after she was found guilty, but her story isn't over yet, as she still has to face sentencing. Sarah Boone faces up to life in prison after being convicted of second-degree murder. She's scheduled to be sentenced on December 2nd. Reporting for Law&Crime, I'm Elizabeth Millner.